Hey guys, just a quick note. I haven't put out an episode in a couple months. Things get real hectic around the holidays, so I took a little break. This episode that you're about to watch was actually recorded before I took the break, so there may be a few comments here or there that aren't quite up to date. With this new year, 2015, I expect to be putting up a lot more episodes, at least one or two a week, so we'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching.
Now, before I get to the books I'm going to cover this week, this is the first regular episode I've done in a few weeks. I had a Long Beach Comic Con special episode, and then last week was a special spotlight on the announcement by Valiant Comics of the series they have coming up in the beginning of next year. So I haven't had a chance to make this correction. In my last episode where I covered some books, I talked about the Rise of the Magi series from Top Cow, and specifically about Sume Kesgin's amazing art. Well, Sume reached out to me and she wanted me to point out that she has help in the second chapter of each of the books from some fellow artists. And I certainly didn't mean to overlook anyone, so I want to mention them now. And I apologize if I get these names wrong. The first is Mirka Ondolfo. There's also Anthony DeSedu and Tina Valentino. So again, an oversight on my part. I didn't mention them when I first did the Rise of the Magi review. But again, Rise of the Magi, great book. Beautiful art by all these artists, so go and check it out. Now, the first book I'm going to talk about in this episode is Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man. Now, just to give a real quick background on Ultimate Spider-Man, it was part of the Marvel's Ultimate line that was launched in 2000 by Marvel Comics, and it was kind of a way to update their heroes, where you didn't have to go back and read 40 years of continuity to kind of know where they were at, kind of a modern version of their heroes. And the first issue they started with was Ultimate Spider-Man. And this was Brian Michael Bendis' first real break into the mainstream. He's become a huge architect of what Marvel has done in the past 14 years, and he actually continues to write Ultimate Spider-Man to this day. And though that first Ultimate Spider-Man series started with Peter Parker as Spider-Man, he was killed at the end of that first Ultimate Spider-Man series. And a new Spider-Man currently stars in the current version of Ultimate Spider-Man, thus the title Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man. Now, there was some controversy when the switchover took place. Miles is a person of color, and so some people didn't like that. They were real traditionalist. I'm really not going to spend too much time talking about that. What I do find interesting is that right about the same time that Brian Michael Bendis jumped to critical acclaim with this Ultimate Spider-Man series, it was just about the same time that sort of the decompression of comic storytelling, that type of storytelling, started to become popular. It's also about the same time that we saw a huge jump in trade paperback and graphic novel sales, with a lot of those being sold at booksellers like Barnes & Noble and Borders. So it's kind of one of those chicken and egg things. People say Brian Michael Bendis' writing is very decompressed. He draws stories out sometimes, something that should be covered in 3 issues. Tends to take 6, and I really couldn't say whether that was just his style of writing, or if he came along at that time where trade started to become popular, so he kind of focused that way. It's really hard to say which came first. His style of writing is very decompressed, and these first 6 issues of Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man are no different. It is a very compelling story, but at times I find it hard to believe I've already read 6 issues, and it seems like not that much has happened. To jump into the story, what has happened is Miles Morales is dealing with a lot of the same things that Peter Parker dealt with when he first became Spider-Man. And that's part of what's so refreshing about this story. Even though Spider-Man has been around for 50 years, by introducing this new character as Spider-Man, we get to see him dealing with a lot of things for the first time where we really couldn't see that in the normal Marvel universe with the current Peter Parker. So Miles is young, he's in high school, he deals with things like, should he tell his girlfriend whether he's Spider-Man or not? He actually told his father that he was Spider-Man, and his father responded by disappearing. Apparently, something happened where inadvertently Miles' mother was killed, either through action or inaction of him by Spider-Man. I'm not really sure. That happened in the previous series of Ultimate Spider-Man. So there's that whole aspect of him missing his father and not sure what's going on there. Also, in these first 6 issues, we actually see the return of Peter Parker, Ultimate Spider-Man. We don't know how he came back. We don't know why he's back. Is he a clone? We also see the return of Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin. Now, he supposedly was killed in the same battle where Peter Parker lost his life. So again, Bendis is bringing up a lot of story points that create a mystery, a sense of suspense, and he really leaves you wanting to know what's going to happen. I really don't want to get too much more into the story details. I'd say read it for yourself. Like I said, the story has not progressed that far yet. It would be easy to jump on and catch up. There's been 6 issues put out so far. And as I mentioned, if there's any little complaint I'd have about the series is that I feel like at the point we are in the story now, it probably could have been told in 4 issues rather than 6. However, that being said, one thing Bendis does do well is he takes time to pause and show a lot of emotion. And his partner on the book, the artist David Marquez, is the perfect match for Bendis on this book. There are so many panels where we'll just see a facial expression with no dialogue whatsoever, just giving a character's emotional reaction to something that just happened in the story. Marquez handles these as well as any artist in the industry today. Also, kind of a hallmark of an Ultimate Spider-Man book are these awesome double-page spreads where they're almost kind of montage pieces. In the latest issue, issue 6, there's a great double-page spread. Peter Parker's talking about how, yes, he's come back from the dead. He doesn't know how, but he knows he's not a clone because he remembers his entire life and everything that happened in it, including his death. And you kind of see his face down in the corner, and the rest of the double-page spread are just all these little pictures, these little vignettes of things that he remembers from being Ultimate Spider-Man, battles against other villains and friends that he left behind. So, again, just real powerful images, great art by David Marquez, and also the colors by Justin Ponzer with some help from Jason Keith are also very, very well done. So I recommend the book. It's a real throwback to the early issues of Amazing Spider-Man, in that the Spider-Man character, in this case Miles Morales rather than Peter Parker, is kind of still learning how to be a hero, and he has a strong sense of honor and duty and responsibility, and yet still has some innocence. He reminds me a lot of the early Peter Parker that we saw in Amazing Spider-Man. So if you're a fan of Spider-Man, if you have never read a Spider-Man comic and maybe you're just watching this because of the recent Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is definitely a book that's easy to jump on. You don't need to go back and read a lot of comics from the past to understand what's going on here. You can pick up with issue 1 of Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man and you won't be lost at all. So while not everyone may be a fan of Brian Michael Bendis and his sort of decompressed style of telling stories, if you only pick up one book he writes, this should probably be it. Spider-Man is a classic superhero that's been around for a long time, and now we have this new version, and he certainly lives up to the name of Spider-Man. And also one other quick thing that I'd like to mention, with Brian Michael Bendis bringing Peter Parker back into the book, it creates a really interesting kind of plot point with Peter Parker, who most of us know as Spider-Man, where he's kind of actually a supporting character in a book that's titled Spider-Man. And I just find that very interesting because there's no doubt when you read this book who's the star of the book, and that's Miles Morales.
The next book I'm going to talk about is the latest Incredible Hulk series from Marvel. Now, the previous Hulk series by Mark Waid established kind of a new paradigm for Hulk. Bruce Banner finally had given up on curing himself from the Hulk. He said he was tired of wasting energy trying to cure himself, and rather than do that, he was going to devote his energies toward making the world a better place. He knows he's a brilliant scientist, and if he expends the energy that he used to spend trying to cure himself and get rid of the Hulk, if he took that energy and channeled it toward more progressive means, he could cure diseases and solve a lot of the things that he saw as problems in the world. So he approached S.H.I.E.L.D. He made them the offer that if they funded him and gave him a lab, that they could use his Hulk persona whenever he hulked out, and kind of as a weapon of last resort when S.H.I.E.L.D. was trying to police certain situations. So that previous series lasted 20 issues, and it ended with Bruce Banner being shot in the back of the head by persons unknown. And that's right where this new series takes off. Who shot Bruce Banner? So the first issue opens with this mysterious organization about to perform brain surgery on Bruce Banner. They have him sedated, but they're also very aware that he could turn into the Hulk at any moment. So they bring in a brain surgeon. What they want him to do is remove the bullet, repair the damage that he can, but also install a small bomb in the brain as kind of a fail-safe. Before any of this can happen, Banner wakes up, hulks out, and escapes the lab. S.H.I.E.L.D. eventually tracks him down at a hospital a few weeks later, where he's reverted to his Bruce Banner form, but he has severe brain damage. He can't communicate. He's lost all his brilliance. The guy can barely write his ABCs. So S.H.I.E.L.D. hopes that Banner will heal eventually. In the meantime, they kind of put him in this town in the middle of nowhere in the Midwest, undercover with lots of fellow S.H.I.E.L.D. agents around to kind of protect him. And they kind of just want to bide their time and see if he'll start to regain his memory and his abilities and his brilliance. Before this can happen, the mysterious organization that wounded him in the first place has managed to create their own abomination. Now, this is a version of the abomination that has no thought of its own, no personality. It's pretty much just a biological automaton. So they send this abomination after the Hulk. There's a huge fight. The town's being destroyed. The Avengers show up. They eventually figure out a way to stop the abomination. Meanwhile, Maria Hill informs Captain America and Iron Man about the injuries to the Hulk and Bruce Banner, and Iron Man and Captain America aren't real happy to hear about the way S.H.I.E.L.D.'s handled the situation. So Tony Stark, Iron Man, takes it upon himself to take the Hulk, Bruce Banner, back with him to his laboratory, where he exposes Bruce Banner to the Extremis virus. He knows it's dangerous, he knows it might not work, but he also feels like it may be the only hope that Bruce Banner has. And with that happening at the end of issue 4, that kind of concludes Mark Waid's run in the book. Issue 5, Jerry Dugan takes over, and we see the series take a big step forward. The Extremis virus has worked almost too well. Not only has it cured Bruce Banner of all his brain damage, it's managed to allow him to be the Hulk and yet retain his intelligence. In fact, his intelligence may even have increased. The Hulk no longer wishes to be called the Hulk. He now refers to himself as Doc Green and insists that nobody refer to him as the Hulk any longer. So perhaps the gamma radiation that turned Bruce Banner's body into the Hulk, making it something more than human, has actually, with the help of the Extremis virus, made the Hulk, or Doc Green's brain, something more than Banner's brain was, or ever could be on its own. So what Doc Green has decided, much like Tony Stark in Armor Wars, no one should have any of the Iron Man tech. Doc Green has decided that no one should have the power of gamma radiation except for him. He feels that no good comes from these other gamma irradiated beings being out there in the Marvel Universe, and he's making his first order of business as this super intelligent Hulk Bruce Banner hybrid to rid the world of these other gamma irradiated beings. So it's not exactly a completely original take on the Hulk. Back in the early 90s, that famous neon green cover, Hulk number 377, part of Peter David's run, where Bruce Banner's supposed multiple personalities were all merged together, and we got a Bruce Banner Hulk hybrid that was confident and intelligent, and it was a pretty popular part of Peter David's long run on The Incredible Hulk. Jerry Dugan has seemed to take that idea of an intelligent Hulk Banner hybrid even one step further. Throughout the course of the story so far, we're led to believe the Banner persona is trapped within Doc Green, and the personality that we're seeing is 100% Hulk. So I'd say it's almost as if the intelligence of Bruce Banner has merged with the arrogance of the gray Hulk Joe Fixit persona, and then you add in this super intelligence, which leaves no room for doubt that anything he's doing can be questioned or considered unethical or flat out wrong. And what you have is a super intelligent being who clearly seems to me to be the most powerful being in the Marvel Universe right now. So I'm very interested to see where the story goes from here. On the art side of things, the art from issue 1 has been handled by Mark Bagley. I'm a big Mark Bagley fan. Loved his long run on Spider-Man, and he certainly doesn't disappoint here. I'm not exactly sure that his style works on the Hulk quite as well as it did on Spider-Man. Hulk doesn't seem quite so big and menacing as some of the other classic Hulk artists have depicted him, but that could just be another manifestation of the Extremis virus, Bagley's trademark storytelling, and the way he handles facial expressions and action scenes are as good as ever. So if you're a fan of the Hulk back in the early 90s, when it was the strong yet intelligent Hulk of the Peter David run, or you're just looking to read something from Marvel that isn't tied into one event after another, this may be the book that you want to try out.